So picture this. You are stranded on a life raft, just bobbing out there in the middle of the
Oh,
ocean.
that sounds terrible already.
Right, and you are just dying of thirst. So in sheer desperation, you decide to lean over and just, drink the ocean water surrounding you.
Which is pretty much the absolute worst thing you could possibly do.
Exactly. Because your body, it desperately tries to survive, so it uses its own cellular hydration to flush that massive influx of salt out of your system.
Through osmosis.
Yes, through osmosis.
Yeah.
The salt literally pulls the water right out of your vital organs. So drinking the ocean doesn't quench your thirst at all. It just radically accelerates your dehydration.
You end up dying much faster than if you had just consumed nothing at all.
Exactly. And yet you are likely doing this exact same thing to your brain like every single time you unlock your phone.
It is a terrifying biological reality. And honestly, it translates perfectly into our psychological reality right now.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, we are living in this era where the sheer volume of data, opinions, and just noise that we consume in a single afternoon, it rivals what our ancestors processed in a decade.
It's unbelievable when you put it like that.
We are floating in an endless ocean, and we're just gulping it down.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today we are exploring this really fascinating 10-minute audio transcript. It's from episode 2 of a series called The Deluge and the Desert.
Such a great title.
It really is, and the specific chapter we're looking at is titled The Salt in the Filter. It features this heavy, almost poetic dialogue between two speakers who are identified only as Helios and the mad philosopher.
It's very mysterious, but the insights are just incredible.
Yeah, so our mission today is to decode the profound metaphors they use. We want to understand how to survive this modern age of just, well, extreme information and opportunity overload. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We spend so much time, managing our inboxes, curating our social feeds, trying to stay on top of the news cycle, and we treat all of this incoming information as necessary. Like, we have to have it.
Right, like it's a requirement for living in the modern world.
Exactly. But the core premise these speakers establish right out of the gate completely flips that assumption on its head.
What's fascinating here is how they redefine our relationship with abundance.
Yeah.
The mad philosopher, he makes this really bold argument. He says that having everything readily available, every piece of knowledge, every hot take, every supposed shortcut to success, it can be entirely fatal to your purpose.
Fatal. That's a strong word.
It is. But it's fatal if you don't have a mechanism to process it all. Look, we usually tend to view scarcity as the primary threat to success.
Right. We worry about not having enough resources or, not having the right connections.
Exactly. But Helios and the mad philosopher, they argue that abundance without discernment is an act of poison.
Okay, I actually want to push back on that slightly. Because, it feels a bit ungrateful, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, didn't humanity spend the last, several thousand years praying for exactly this kind of abundance? Think about a century ago. If you wanted to learn a complex new skill, the barriers to entry were just massive.
Yeah, oh, for sure. You had to physically track down rare books.
Yeah, or just hope you stumbled across a mentor who was, willing to take you on. But today I can literally watch a masterclass on quantum mechanics or real estate investing while I'm just standing in line waiting for my coffee.
Which is amazing.
Right. Isn't that access a miracle? Why are they framing this as a deluge that we somehow need to survive?
Well, the access itself is a miracle. Absolutely. No one is denying that. But the problem isn't the existence of the abundance.
Okay.
The problem is our indiscriminate consumption of it. We engineered this world of infinite access, basically assuming the human brain would naturally know how to curate the influx.
And it does.
We don't. We really don't. Helios states in the text, and I love this quote, he says, "Not every drop of water is meant for drinking."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When you look at the historical context, human beings evolved in environments of severe information scarcity.
Well, right. Like if you heard a piece of news in a hunter-gatherer tribe, it was probably crucial to your immediate survival. Like, hey, there's a tiger over there.
Exactly. We are biologically wired to pay close attention to new information. So now you take that same biological wiring and drop it into a modern digital landscape.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
We physically cannot stop ourselves from drinking the water, even when it's completely toxic.
Which brings us to the salt. They talk a lot about the salt in this transcript, and they don't just leave it as some abstract concept.
No, they're very specific.
Yeah, the text defines the salt water of our world as raw, unfiltered data, Fake news, toxic energy, daily distractions, just the superficial noise of the industry and the really loud voices of doubters.
And if you consume all of that without any kind of barrier, the mad philosopher warns that you become, and this phrase is so visceral, bloated, and dehydrated by the salt of other people's lives.
Bloated and dehydrated. Man, that perfectly captures the modern psychological condition, doesn't it?
It really does.
It actually makes me think about the mechanics of doom scrolling. Like, I catch myself doing this all the time.
We all do it.
It's late at night, I'm totally exhausted, and I'm just swiping through short form videos. I'm not like looking for a specific tutorial or anything. I have absolutely zero goal. I'm just basically opening my mouth and letting the ocean rush in.
Just gulping the salt water.
Exactly. I'll spend an hour taking in hundreds of different micro-narratives, political arguments, lifestyle flexes, random memes, and when I finally put the phone down, I just feel completely hollow.
Right.
My brain feels full, literally bloated with volume, but my actual ambition feels completely starved.
Yeah, that's because you didn't extract any sustenance. You just allowed the salt to pull the vital energy right out of your own vision.
Which goes back to the osmosis metaphor.
Exactly. Every single time you engage with the noise of the industry or, the toxic energy of a stranger's outrage online, your brain has to expend its own cognitive resources to deal with it.
It has to use its own cellular hydration.
Yes. It uses your energy to process and flush that nonsense out of your system. You are literally doing exhausting cognitive labor just to return to baseline.
That is wild. So for you listening right now, this is the first crucial checkpoint. Take a really hard look at your daily intake. Are you drinking the salt? Are you letting the absolute roar of the world's noise dehydrate your actual purpose?
It's a question we have to ask ourselves every day.
Because if we accept that the ocean of abundance is this dangerous, we obviously have to find an alternative way to get our water. But the text suggests that human nature kind of fights against the actual solution.
Well, yeah, because human nature always seeks the path of least resistance. When we are faced with an overwhelming and toxic ocean, we don't want to do the really hard work of finding clean water. We want a shortcut. We want the end result without the grueling process of extraction.
Helios actually has a name for this. He calls it the desire for bottled water success.
Yes, the bottled water metaphor.
He says people want their success handed to them, chilled, purified, and ready to consume. They essentially want a turnkey life.
A turnkey life.
Yeah, you just buy the system, put the key in the ignition, turn it, and drive off. No assembly required, absolutely no heavy lifting.
But Helios contrasts that lazy expectation with a really vivid description of where true, life-giving abundance actually lives.
And it's not in a bottle.
No. He compares real opportunity to a deep well in the middle of a construction site, or a rough demo of a track.
Those images are just brilliant. A deep well in a construction site. Like, picture that. It's dirty, it's super loud, there's dust everywhere.
That doesn't look like an oasis at all.
Not at all. It looks like a hazard zone. And a rough demo of a music track. If you don't have the trained ear to actually hear the underlying melody, it just sounds like harsh noise.
Right. The potential is massive, but it is deeply hidden inside all that chaos. And discovering that hidden potential requires labor. The mad philosopher introduces this fascinating distinction here. He talks about the lazy fool versus the thirsty fool.
Oh, this part is great. Walk us through that.
So the thirsty fool stands by the side of a rushing river. He desperately wants the water, right? But he refuses to bend his back to scoop it up.
He expects the river to just, leap into his mouth.
Exactly. He wants the bottled water. But mastery-like, true mastery of any subject, it requires extraction.
Yeah.
It requires pulling the heavy bucket up from the well, boiling the raw water, and actually sweating for your sustenance. You have to put the raw materials of your life through the fire. If we connect this to the bigger picture.
Wait, I'm struggling with this focus on labor and friction. I mean, isn't the entire goal of technological progress to eliminate friction?
What do you mean?
Well, we design apps to be completely frictionless. We want one-click checkout. We want AI to just, write our emails for us so we don't have to bend our backs, so to speak.
Right.
So if the tools exist to give us the bottled water, why are Helios and the mad philosopher demanding that we go sweat at the dirty construction site? Isn't that just sort of romanticizing suffering?
I see why you'd think that, but that is a very common misconception about friction. We have conflated transactional friction with transformational friction.
Oh, interesting. Transactional versus transformational.
Yes, you absolutely want zero friction when you're paying for groceries or booking a flight.
Hmm.
Those are just transactions.
Nobody wants to sweat while buying a plane ticket.
Exactly. But when it comes to purpose, understanding, and real mastery, friction is not a glitch. Friction is the fundamental mechanism of creation. The labor is the whole point.
Wow.
When you bypass the labor of learning, when you let an algorithm do your critical thinking for you, you haven't actually acquired wisdom. You've just acquired the illusion of competence.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. That makes perfect sense. It's kind of like the difference between buying a cheap piece of flimsy, pre-assembled furniture from some big box store versus going to the lumber yard, buying raw oak, and really sweating over the saw and the sander.
That's a perfect analogy.
Like, the flimsy desk looks totally fine for a week, but the second you put real weight on it, it just snaps. But the desk you built yourself through friction and labor, that thing will last a lifetime.
Absolutely.
So the turnkey life might look successful on the surface, but it has zero structural integrity because it never went through the fire.
Precisely. Truth is never found cleanly packaged on the surface. Never. When you encounter someone with a profound level of mastery in their field, or even someone who just possesses deep inner peace,
Yeah.
you are looking at someone who has done the grueling labor of extraction. They didn't just passively consume abundance. They bent their back, they scooped up the chaotic water, and they purified it.
So we're left with this very stark reality. We cannot greedily drink from the toxic ocean of modern information because the salt will kill our purpose.
Right.
And we cannot lazily wait on the shoreline for someone to just hand us chilled, frictionless, bottled water. Which brings us to the climax of the source text. What is the actual actionable mechanism for surviving this? Like, what do we do?
You have to build the machine that does the work. You must become the filter.
Building the filter. Yeah, Helios speaks very personally about this part, doesn't he?
He does.
As a creator and an inventor himself, he basically admits that if he let all the industry's salt into his system, like the trends, the critics, the endless comparison to what others are doing, he would be completely paralyzed.
Oh, the sheer volume of contradictions out there would freeze anyone in their tracks. That paralysis is the inevitable result of an unfiltered mind in the modern age. So Helios argues that your primary responsibility is to construct a mental filter with a really ruthless binary function.
A binary function, meaning just yes or no.
Exactly. It must retain the minerals, which are the lessons and the actionable insights. And it must completely discard the salt, which is the nonsense.
And the mad philosopher takes this a step further. He claims that a true philosopher is a filter. An inventor is a filter.
Yes.
These people aren't just like empty vessels waiting to be magically filled with inspiration. They are active, aggressive sorting mechanisms. They constantly evaluate incoming data to decide what is life-giving and what is just volume.
Volume is such a crucial word there. We so often mistake volume for value.
Oh, that's good. Say more about that.
Well, just because a story is dominating the news cycle or some topic is trending across all the social platforms, it doesn't mean it contains any actual minerals.
Right.
It might just be pure volume. Loud, demanding, but entirely devoid of nutrition. If it doesn't actively nourish your vision or ground you in reality, the text says you must spit it out.
Okay, I understand the theory, but I want to get really granular about the application here.
Okay, let's do it.
We use these big analogies like building a filter, but what does that actually look like at, say, 2:00 p.m. on a Tuesday? My inbox is exploding, a client is angry, and my phone is just buzzing with breaking news. How do I functionally operate as a filter in real time? Is it just pure willpower?
It's definitely not just willpower. Willpower depletes. It's a structural change in how you process stimuli. The mad philosopher provides the functional definition right at the end of the text. He calls it a membrane of wisdom.
A membrane of wisdom.
Think about the physical mechanics of water purification, specifically reverse osmosis.
I'm tracking with you.
You have this semi-permeable membrane.
Yeah.
But the water doesn't just passively flow through it. It requires immense, sustained pressure to force the contaminated water against the barrier. The membrane is woven so tightly that the heavy salt molecules are trapped on one side and only the pure H2O is pushed through to the other.
Oh, I see. So applying that to the mind, the membrane is my explicitly defined set of core values and boundaries. It's kind of like an aggressive email spam filter. If I don't go into the settings of my spam filter and explicitly define the parameters, like if I don't say flag messages with this specific keyword or block this exact sender, my inbox just gets completely overrun.
Exactly. You have to actively author the rules of your membrane.
And the pressure.
The pressure that forces the water against the membrane is critical thinking.
Ah,
When an unfiltered mind encounters a sensational headline or a really toxic piece of office gossip, it just absorbs it. It engages immediately. That's system one, thinking fast and emotional.
right. The knee-jerk reaction.
But a filtered mind applies cognitive pressure. That's system two thinking, which is slow and deliberate. It pauses and forces that information through a series of rigid questions. Who is saying this? What is their underlying incentive? Is this verifiable, or is it just emotional manipulation? Does this serve my long-term purpose?
Wow.
And if the information can't pass through those questions, it is trapped on the outside.
Okay, but isn't there a danger there? Like if I set up this highly aggressive membrane and only let in what serves my vision, aren't I just building an echo chamber for myself?
That's a great question.
How do I filter out the salt without accidentally filtering out, valid criticism or uncomfortable truths that I actually really need to hear?
And that right there is the brilliance of identifying the minerals. The mad philosopher doesn't say filter out everything that is unpleasant. He says filter out the salt.
Okay.
Valid criticism is a mineral. It might be a really hard mineral to swallow, but it is life-giving because it corrects your course.
That makes a lot of sense.
The truth is often deeply uncomfortable. Wisdom, the membrane itself, is the ability to discern the difference between constructive friction, like the critic who points out a flaw in your work, and toxic salt, like the troll who just attacks your character.
Yeah, big difference between those two.
Huge difference. And the text warns that if you fail to develop this nuanced membrane, you aren't a high achiever. You're just a sponge for garbage.
A sponge for garbage. I literally cannot get that phrase out of my head.
It's brutal.
It is, because a sponge has absolutely zero agency. It just sits there, completely passive, and absorbs whatever murky, filthy water it happens to be dropped into. It takes on the exact shape, color, and weight of its environment.
Which is the ultimate tragedy in an ocean of abundance. You just become a reflection of the noise rather than a creator of signal.
So what does this all mean? To avoid becoming that sponge, the mad philosopher leaves us with one final, just transformative metaphor about how this distillation actually works.
Yeah.
He says the fire of discipline is what turns salt water into steam and steam into pure rain.
It's the ultimate evolutionary step from passive absorption to active creation. You don't just put up a wall to block the ocean. You apply the intense heat of discipline to the raw, chaotic data of your life. The fire. And under that heat, the truth, the core lessons, they vaporize into steam. They rise above the heavy, toxic salt of petty drama and distraction. And then, in the cool air of reflection, that steam condenses back down as pure, life-giving rain that can actually water your ambitions.
Man, that is heavy. The implication there is that you have to be the fire.
You have to be.
You have to look at the massive, overwhelming ocean of your inbox, your social media feeds, the endless demands of your industry, and realize that you are in total control of the distillation process.
Nobody else can do it for you.
Exactly. You cannot let the ocean drown you. And you absolutely cannot wait for someone to hand you a turnkey life. You have to bend your back, scoop up the chaotic water, and apply the fire of critical thinking to boil it down to what actually matters.
You are shifting from being a passive victim of the deluge to an active master of the extraction. And it is a daily, relentless practice.
And that is the exact challenge for you, the listener, as we start to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah.
As you move through the rest of your day, look closely at every single article you click, every office conversation you get pulled into, and every random thought you let linger in your head.
Put it under the pressure.
Put it under the pressure of the membrane. Ask yourself, is this a mineral or is this salt? Is this piece of information actually life-giving, or is this just volume?
We've traveled from the terrifying reality of the toxic ocean, past the lazy illusion of bottled water, and straight into the fire of discipline required to turn chaos into sustaining rain.
And the text actually ends on a bit of a cliffhanger.
It really does.
It hints that the work isn't over once you've distilled the water. Helios signs off by teasing the next chapter, episode 3, which is called The Vessel and the Overflow.
I can't wait for that one.
Right. The premise is that you found the water, you've put it through the fire, you filtered the salt, but now you have to figure out if your character is actually strong enough to hold the pure water without shattering.
It's an incredible setup for the next level of mastery.
But, before we leave the concept of the filter entirely, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to consider on your own.
Please do.
If wisdom is the tight membrane that traps the lies, the doubts, and the toxic salt, so only the pure truth passes through, what happens to all that trapped toxic residue over time.
Oh,
In a physical reverse osmosis machine, if you don't flush the membrane, it eventually gets choked with the very salt it successfully kept out. It hardens and it just stops working.
that's a really good point.
I wonder if the same is true of the human mind. If you spend years aggressively filtering out the nonsense of the world, does your mental filter eventually get clogged with the residue of everyone else's toxicity?
Wow.
Perhaps the next step in mastering your information intake isn't just building the filter, but learning how to routinely empty it out and forgive the noise, just so you don't become cynical, hardened, and blocked by the very salt you fought so hard to keep out.
You have to flush the membrane so you don't turn into a cynic.
Exactly. Let that sit with you for a while. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep testing your parameters, keep extracting those minerals, and tomorrow morning, when you reach for that phone on the nightstand, maybe pause for just 1 second before you let the ocean flood your brain. Catch you next time.